welcome Nalin and Dheer. Welcome to Ketchup Talks on Social Ketchup.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
for having us. Yeah.
No, first of all, congratulations on the selection. And I really have to begin with this only. How is the general feeling going on between the two of you and even the crew and the cast, all of the people involved in the film? How is the general feeling going on? Were you expecting this or was it a complete surprise?
Well, I was not expecting. Dheer was expecting, so it's both ways. But we've been, celebrating non-stop because, while making this movie, the cast and crew came so close. We almost like a kind of a friends and a family now. So there's been a lot of celebration and talks and, reassurance in a lot of talent. What people might not know that we had a lot of young team members. Some of them were doing their first feature film, like the costume designer. We had quite a few people in Dheer's team, who were line producer, production manager, doing their first feature film as a line producer as well. So, and that it's kind of really a big reassurance. And not to forget our 6 kids, was their first movie. Of course, they are all 8 to 12 max when we were filming it. So in a way, with this young spirit, getting such recognition, is absolutely amazing. So we've been celebrating. Yes, we've been talking about it, but we at the same time know it is just the beginning. Real work starts now.
But I wanted to come to next. This question was, RRR was a huge name that was coming up for the selection, official selection from India. I just want to know, what do you feel or rather think about, that somewhere your film will always be compared to RRR?
I think that maybe, is a question, I guess, for the jury of Film Federation of India, because, I don't know them and what really went inside and how these decisions are made. We did our submission, and of course, our film was selected by them. So I'll be at least really curious to know. All I know is that there were a lot of qualified jury members who have won many national awards, are real cinephile, they know cinema. They also understand a little bit the academy, the way it works. They might have thought, I believe, that, okay, what kind of movies in last 5-6 years have won international feature category? So that gives them some kind of an idea that what kind of movie India should send. So it's never that easy, because it's a long process. I believe they meet 1 week, 10 days, to choose to pick a film, So yes, and knowing the way our country has such diverse cinema culture, we love movies with our big stars. We have so many languages. I don't think there's any country which makes movies in so many languages. It might be easier for South Korea to pick one because there is only one Korean language. France has French, Spain has Spanish, but it's not our case. We have so much variety within our cinematic universe. So I'm sure it must have been a very tough and challenging job for such a jury to pick one film over another. And I would be curious to even know myself, what went on and how such decision is arrived. But we were kind of thrilled that we were getting international recognition worldwide. And our distributor, Samuel Goldwyn, when he picked up the film, he was the first one to tell us that, look, this is a serious contender for the Oscar. And that's one of the reasons we are buying it, and we had to trust them because they do have a long experience of dealing with international feature. Like this year, their film from Bhutan got nomination called Lunana. Last year, they had won Oscar for the film from Denmark for another round. So, our sales company, Orange Studio, which is a French company, have won for The Artist and The Father. So, we were a little bit following their belief. And several times in the Western media, they have said that, oh, we are also supporting this film because we do believe it can be a serious contender from India if India chooses to send this movie. So, but which was not known. We didn't even think about it, and Dheer has done a screening, for Asutosh Gowarikar several months ago. I could say almost 6 months, and he was the first one to say, guys, make your suit and tuxedo and you are going to the Oscar, So maybe some other people were seeing it much more than I was. Just busy promoting, meeting audience, how to do screening, how to do release in India. So we were showing a lot of private previews in Ahmedabad and Hyderabad and Chennai, and all this was going on, has been going on since more than 1.5 months, way before the announcement came.
But like you mentioned that the people who have watched the film are supporting it. Do you think that the audience would also follow their suit? Maybe once they watch it, they would stop,
Exactly. I think,
somewhere.
yeah, so some audience might have been disappointed because our film is not yet released. It's not
Yeah.
audience's fault. It's not people's fault. The Academy rule clearly states any movie released before 30th of November can qualify to apply. And our release date was 14th of October. We wanted to release earlier, but they were, Omicron, after Omicron, when the halls opened, it was hard to get theaters we wanted because there were a lot of big movies. Backlog was clearing. So we said, we are patient because our movie was releasing in other countries and we had to do the same kind of work there, promotion, press, media, like in Spain, in Germany. So, we said we still have time. Let's find a good window to release. Then with Roy Kapoor film and with Dheer, and we all sort of came to conclusion like this looks like a movie, good movie to release before Diwali because it celebrates light. It's a story of light, and Diwali is festival of light. So why not we just release a week before Diwali, and we tell people celebrate light before you celebrate Diwali.
Dear, what do you think about this? The entire whatever Oscar controversy, or the audience being a little bit pissed off with, why RRR wasn't selected or why this film was selected. As a producer, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, like I think that India is a passionate country and we're really passionate about our films. So it is only understandable that, fans of certain movies are upset. It happens in every country. There's debates happening in France right now, there's debates happening in Korea. So I feel like it's a universal, concept, and especially movies bring out the most passionate versions of audiences. So, it is what it is. I just know that when people watch our film, the response has been very heartwarming, and moreover, what I've seen is that people start projecting themselves into our film, and that's something really beautiful and something that I've really enjoyed seeing through all the screenings that I've been to, or through any of the festivals that I've been to, or people who have watched the film have called me, or somehow written to me on Instagram, or an email, and they've started pulling out stories of their own childhood. They've started pulling out stories of the first time they ever watched a film in a cinema, or what it felt for them and why they fell in love with cinema. And these are, some of them are film people, some of them are not film people. They're like normal people, like engineers or consultants or investment bankers, or entrepreneurs. And I feel like, the story, while it exists on two very obvious planes, that it is an ode to cinema and it is about this young boy who falls in love with films. It's also an entrepreneurial sort of jugaru journey, where when life is throwing you lemons, what do you make with it? Like when life is putting all of these hurdles in front of you and creating boundaries for you, how do you overcome those hurdles and still follow your dreams? Um, so one of the taglines of the film is, when you have nothing, nothing can stop you. I always add to that, when you have nothing to lose, nothing can stop you. And I feel like that is a sort of inspirational, motivational message or motivational sort of theme which anyone falls in love with, which is why it's sort of become a global phenomenon, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a very authentic film set in Kathiawadi, Gujarat, where even a neighboring state, Punjab, might feel alienated, right? Or a neighboring state in the south, Maharashtra, may feel alienated. But there's a reason why audiences all across India, specifically on the screenings that we've done, the private screenings, but audiences worldwide have connected with it because it has global themes built into it. So I do feel like, when people start watching the film, their hearts sort of melt, and they find themselves in the film, which is something that's really incredible. And I'm hoping that that translates as it has in international releases in Spain and Korea, and in Spain and Germany and Israel. I also hope similarly it translates in our theatrical release here in India.
It's interesting. Nalin actually mentioned something, was that while he was busy with screening and everything, you were managing other things as well. So how important is to find the right kind of producer, the right fit of a producer for such kind of films?
I think, I mean, for as a filmmaker, you always want to look for a producer. At least I look for, I don't know how other filmmakers, because I haven't worked with anyone else as a producer. but I do look for producer who will want to first of all believe in my story and the kind of vision I want to carry forward. And even when I meet with producer, I have to be also fair. I can't come and say, because I know the producers are not bank or money bag and say, okay, just here, take your money and make the movie. So I always knew that I have to somehow show certain incentive. I have to show, because I've always known that cinema is absolutely commercial before any art form, and I've always treated it like that. And I've always been careful with my producers who work with me or the investors. I know I take care of them, and then that's why I know that when I make certain level of project, there will always be someone willing to come on board. Because they know, okay, we might not make money, but we might not lose it also. And we might make a lot more money or less, but we will not lose it. So when you get that confidence, it's important in your. So I need to come up with a model and say, look, if it doesn't sell in India, we will sell it here. This country can buy my film. They've bought it in the past. And after that we'll do certain television sales. After that we might sell it to streamer, because that confidence is important. And then you can say, in return, I want freedom, creative freedom. Let me make it my way. Don't I cannot be pressurized to have a star, and say you only make star, put an item song. Then you are making a different type of cinema, which is also great. I love those films, and I would do it then with a star, with a huge studio, and it's a different equation financially. But in this particular film, one of the first thing I had to do to show that in small way, even my skin is in the game, is that I had a house, flat in Mumbai, in Borivali, which I sold. I got a little bit of fund. I put it in, and I went out. And when I met Dheer, who was always interested in this story, he had started this company. It's a young company, few film he produced, a lot of music videos, and there was a passion that he wanted to do something different. So he really believed in kind of work I wanted to do, and I knew that I will have my creative freedom when we work with him. We can argue, we can have disagreement, which are normal, but in the end, somebody has to believe in that vision. Like when I say, oh, I want to shoot 65, 70 days, I need a giant factory in Rajkot. Like someone like Dave, we wouldn't say, oh, why do you want such a big factory? He said, no, no, let me see how I can make it happen. We don't have money, let me make some calls. So that's a different understanding, and you want to work with that producer, because who will understand that, no, if there is such a demand, there's a reason for it. Why? Because in the end, there's a climax in the film which will have to be bigger than, larger than life in certain sense. So yes, that's what happens. So while I might be busy making movie on the set, but someone like producer, he might have to deal with so many paperwork with our international sales company, trying to find the remaining fund, dealing with papers, the payments, and making deals. So it needs a army, as we all know, to make a movie. And we were about 150 people to make last film show. It's, even though it's a Gujarati film, but our team came from almost all over India. We have sound recordist who was from Kerala, cinematographer from Maharashtra, first assistant director from Himachal Pradesh. There was like people of all, of course, all the actors and the kids were from Kathiawad, Gujarat, but it was pretty much an Indian movie per se.
Dheer, what really goes on in a mind of a producer to say yes to a script like the last film show?
So I think I'll club two answers together, even with your last question and this question. So Nalin is as much a producer on Last Film Show as I am. I'm lucky that he credits me, and in all these conversations, really, he takes the directorial role and I take the production role. But his understanding of the movie business is far and wide. It's very deep. Through his earlier films, on some of which he was also a producer, the experience that he's garnered over the years is something that taught me a lot, because it was his understanding and his historical empirical knowledge which helped me make a lot of decisions, and pushed me to take certain risks, pushed me to evaluate certain risks in ways that I would have not otherwise been able to do without someone like him also guiding me. So I think that one, if I'm when I'm producing, I will also look always for a co-producer or a creator who has the knowledge base and the understanding of market that Nalin has, because at the end of the day, he is not a filmmaker who is where his ego is bigger than bigger than everyone else's in the room. His ego is not to make the film that he wants to make. His ego is to make, I mean, and he doesn't have an ego per se, I mean, we all have egos, but his real service is to the audience. He knows that he's making this film to get as wide an audience as possible. He is not making this film to win an award at Cannes, or to win an Oscar, or to win any of those, milestone sort of moments that, filmmakers have. He's making a film for the eventuality that a lot of people can experience a story that has come from him. He is in that sense a very pure form of storyteller. Um, so for me, when I look for partners in film, or when I look for creators that I'd love to work with, I first try to find that, like, are we working with someone who's trying to make something for themselves, or are they making something where they want to entertain people? Obviously, with each film, you're making it for yourself, right? Because when you're two people in a room and you're writing words on a piece of paper, you're not really thinking about the multitudes of people that watch it. You want that eventuality, but you have to believe in it yourself. But your eventual intention and outcome is to find an audience. And I feel like Nalin has been able to find an audience for his films in the most, unique and the most far out pockets of the world. Like even with last film show, we've played at the northernmost cinema before the North Pole begins. We have played in one. We're going to play in the easternmost cinema in Japan. We're going to, play in LA, which is possibly, and Hawaii, which is the western, and possibly we'll go down south to Australia and New Zealand, which means you're essentially playing at the four sort of, north, south, east, west of the world. And that's really the goal for any filmmaker, to get your voice heard by so many people and to move emotionally, to move such a wide audience.
The film is coming out, releasing in India at a very interesting time, where there's a lot of discussions going on over the industry and how the industry is going through a phase or a change or an experimental phase rather, where some things are going away, new things are coming in. How do you think has OTT probably changed the game, and specifically for film festivals?
Yeah, so I was going to say that, there's the theatrical experience has always been a threat, has been at threat. When television came, they said that cinemas would die. When streaming services came, they said cinemas would die. And when the pandemic came, it was sort of the death knell for, cinema experience. But I feel like, there are stories that will continue to move people enough and to draw people into the cinema. There are stories with a sense of urgency, which requires you to go with your family and experience that magic of sitting in a dark room for 2.5 hours. Going in at 6 o'clock and coming out at 8 o'clock when it's dark. It's almost like a time travel situation. And I think Nalin is the person who brought this analogy up to me before, so I might be, using one of his lines. But really, I feel like a film like this is an invitation, and I feel like the timing of this film is really important, because as storytellers, it is sort of our responsibility as well to keep that theatrical experience alive, to keep that magic of going to the cinema alive. And which is why I think that there's a lot of support that's coming for us from the industry. And I think that also from a following a global zeitgeist perspective, even Steven Spielberg and Sam Mendes have both made, and both, masters of cinema, have both made films about their childhood and their experience of cinema and loving of light, and what the cinema experience is, and how storytellers are important in cinema. So I feel like from a timing perspective, we are quite there in the right time. Um, I also do feel like, in today's day and age, when you're making a film, you're not competing with other films. You're competing with platforms like Instagram and TikTok, and you're competing with, with young adults who are gaming, who are spending a lot of time on games. So how then do you create, something so spectacular that they'll come and are willing to lend you 2 hours of their time to watch your story? And which is why I think storytellers like Nalin are required today more than they ever have been. So I do believe that this is the right time, and you're right when you say that it is the most interesting timing of the film, and I do hope that it translates, into when we do release on October 14th.
As a producer, what do you really look for something like this sort of a film, which is more of an indie film versus more of a mass film, let's just say?
So the thing is, I don't like using. I mean, again, this is
Hmm.
something that Nalin has brought up to me, which I will reuse. I've realized a lot of my life lessons have come from him. The words indie or art house, these were words that were, they don't really. I mean, there are some films that are, outwardly experimental and are, non-linear narratives, with a lot of like, new wave sort of storytelling, which then tend to be in the art house space, which require a different mindset to watch. But Nalin's films, all his movies till date, including Last Film Show, they are not that film. They're not indie art house films. They are commercial movies that will be enjoyed by audiences no matter who watches them. Specifically with Last Film Show, audiences all the way from 8 to 80, even 6 to 85, will enjoy watching this film because they will connect in some sense to the film. The words like indie and art house, I think those were created because it was an easier way to say that it's a non-studio film. Because when the studio system, sort of took massive force, there was also independent producers, which then got labeled as indies. But you can't really generalize a film with indie or not. Yes, the film has been independently produced, but it's not an indie film. It is not an art house film. Um, I feel like that sort of comes from two things. For me, is that if you if you're speaking to such a wide audience, and if worldwide audiences have come in to watch your film in the cinema and paid top dollar tickets to your cinema, it's a question of distribution. It's a question of finding the right exhibitors and the distributors who are willing to take a risk on playing your film in the cinema at 8 p.m. rather than playing a film of a star. Because also the time, there is all, we'll always love our stars and we'll always be appreciative of going to watch, our favorite stars in the cinema. But times are changing. The urgency to go to the cinema, which earlier was to see your favorite star who would come on the big screen once or twice, maybe 3 times a year if you're lucky, and you'd get to experience their charisma for 3 or 4 hours, in a year. You would flock. There was an urgency when a new star film was coming. You would run, a new Salman Khan film or whatever. You would run to the cinema on a Friday evening. But now what's happening is that a lot of these stars, they're pretty much well exposed on social media. They're doing a lot of commercials. They're doing a lot of television shows. So suddenly that sort of elusive, experience of watching something with a star, rightfully so. Stars need to find new ways to speak to their audience and engage with their audience. But I feel like it's just a natural progression and a natural cyclical progression that we're going back now to follow stories, and stories are the ones who are leading the commercial viability of a film.
So do you think somewhere OTT has changed the game for film festivals?
I don't think for the film festival, but the OTT platform, the streamers have totally changed the game world over. How the movies are being distributed, how they are seen, and most of the streamers, they are not, maybe festival is one of the market. They are also making shows. They are making movies themselves. Some of the festivals are buying movies which are being made, and so now that there are just way too many streaming platforms, in country like the US, there are just so many streaming platforms. How do you choose? So you might choose certain platform which cater to your taste, over other platform, because no one ultimately will have so much of money to subscribe to every single platform, because that is just going to cost so much of money every month. So people will start picking up, okay, maybe my favorite movie is playing here, or we might even come back to the era was like Blu-ray and DVD, that you rather pay for what you want to watch, video on demand kind of a thing. That okay, I like this six movie, I'm just going to pay for six. Why take the whole subscription? Because it is getting saturated. We all know, there is just way too much of content, and there are limited human hours in all our life which we want to spend in front of computer or a TV. And we go, we work, we look after our life, we come back, something new drops. Every day there is something new dropping. Shows and movies, and there's that much of content on our smartphone, on social media. So it's a very difficult time in the way for people to judge what they want to watch. So I don't think the festival or streamer have anything to do with it. I do believe that the streaming will change viewing habits. Some of the platform will have much more quality films, and maybe more meaningful cinema. Other platform might be family friendly because some people prefer watching movies with their kids. Some might go totally different way. So yes, but I think that's what it's going to be. And as Dheer said rightly, we will always have audience who still want to go to those dark places and have a communal experience of watching a movie, because it's a different feeling when you watch movie with strangers, and when light dims and movie comes on, and you are not given a choice of fast forwarding or pausing. It's not at your fingertip. When that control is taken away from you, that's a different type of a pleasure. And in that, if the movie turns out to be good, people are going to flock to the theater. I know that how in the US, when Top Gun Maverick came out, people just flocked because this is what they wanted to enjoy, and the movie was good, and this is what a lot of American audience was waiting for Tom Cruise to appear. He's one of the star who did not overexpose himself. He didn't go to 1 million TV shows and social media, and so everyone was waiting for him to reappear, with a great film. So I think theatrical experience will always be there. I don't know about the distributor and exhibitor, how much risk they will take in the near future to take up film like Last Film Show or many other movies, and how much courage they will show that, okay, the time has come of stories. Audience are smarter than filmmakers, audience are smarter than distributors, audience are smarter than exhibitors, and we need to give that due respect to the audience. So let's bring something all the time new and fresh and authentic. Only if audience reject we can pull it down, but at least we give them a chance that please do watch the movie. 2 3 days the fate will be decided by the audience rather than exhibitor deciding the fate. And very often producer, distributor, exhibitor, they decided certain fate, and they came out with 3,000, 4,000 screen, and we know what happened, not only here but abroad. So of course everyone is questioning that what works, how does it work. No one has a formula. The only formula or any answer I can think, that just give people a chance for few days. If it works, let it run for longer.
So just coming to my last question that I have, and it's about the film. I was reading somewhere that you said there are a lot of Easter eggs for cinephiles in the film, and I really wanted to ask: was it fun to give those Easter eggs, or was it a challenging task to do those?
Very challenging, because you can easily fall into being pretentious, or like, who are you to put such big name. And so I had to really find a subtle way, and because honestly, there's just so many filmmakers who inspire a lot of filmmakers. I'm not the only one, and there was no way I was sort of going away without paying certain kind of a homage in my own way, because I thought this is the only movie where the theme is such. It's a cinema about cinema, it's a film about film, where I can probably get away with doing some mischief, in a childish way. So it was necessary for me to do that, but I didn't want to do it at a cost of losing my emotional plot. It's a story of Samai inspired from my own childhood, and I wanted to keep the vision there. So even if you are not a cinephile and you know nothing about cinema, you should be able to, at one level, just watch Samai's journey from beginning to end. And you might wonder at anything, but I don't think it'll take anything. Nothing will go away from. It will not distract you. Now, if you are cinephile and you love cinema and you have followed a lot of filmmakers' work, you need not be in the film industry, then you might start seeing every now and then, very subtle way, certain tribute come and go, and then if you're a hardcore cinephile, you can even see more, but in a way, I didn't want it that consciously people register it, then it will not be fun. It will not be fun, because people have to be driven by story, by character, by emotion, and then maybe they say, oh, we should go and see it again because maybe there was something we missed, or maybe the only probably the in your face direct obvious tribute is a little moment in the film which I can give away. Is the Lumia brother. There's a for a short second there's a black and white shot of a train coming towards the camera. And that is probably anyone who knows cinema history will relate to. But even if you don't know, it's just like a little aesthetic pose in the film. But if not, nothing else is in your face.
And how was it, as an adult, going back this way into your childhood?
Oh, it was quite amazing because I keep going back there because my family still lives there. My childhood home is still there. No one lives there, but it's still kept in the family. So I go there for a couple of days. But to make this movie, we had to stay there longer period, almost year and a half. So sort of going back to a lot of this, revisiting, what I lived and discovering the innocence and simplicity and the nature, the connection with the animals and birds, and I'd forgotten all that. So even while we were shooting, there'll be a lot of it is in the film as well. We just will turn the camera, and there are beautiful parrots are there, and then there are squirrels just playing next to our camera. We look behind, far away there are nilgais crossing the platform while we are shooting. A flock of deers come and look what's going on. We literally had a panic in our crew when Pride of Lion showed up. As we were wrapping up, there were suddenly like dozen lioness on roaming around, and people panic. So they're just going back to just that nature, that timelessness of a place, of course was very moving. And it was almost like unlearning a lot of things for me, because sometimes you forget, you get taken over by the world and the fast moving pace of life. But going back there, it sort of reminded us of what is authentic, what is organic, what really matters in life, which could be as simple as, food, films, friends, and family.
Thank you so much, Nalin. Thank you, Dheer,
Thank you.
for giving me the time.
Thank you so much.
And all the best for the film.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks.